Hello, I'm FPX Toycat, and welcome back to an episode of the Minecraft Bedrock Update Adventures Let's Play. Today, I'm going to be chopping down a lot of trees, and the reason we're chopping down a lot of trees is because I don't like zombies like that one over there spawning in my Minecraft world, and chopping down all of these trees will stop that. You might question how those two things are linked together, but actually it does totally make sense, and trust me, you'll understand why in today's video. But let's go over to the forest and let's chop down some trees, because this is going to be one of those long ones. A lot of people say they've missed this kind of like, yeah, let's just do nice long uncut stuff, because a lot of YouTube, you know, given the attention spans and stuff, given the way algorithm works, etc., there is a very strong incentive on you, the creator, to make things that are very much engaging on the highest level, and therefore the sorts of things where you just have one long non-cut thing is very much under pressure to go away on the platform. But let's try our best to do it anyway. Let's give into the demand, and let's literally chop down trees for the rest of the video as soon as we get there, because we're taking the Blue Ice pathway to our big forest and we're chopping down trees, and that's literally it. This isn't like some ploy like, haha, this is my way of covering up stuff. No, this is literally just, I want to chop down some trees. I have a big area that needs some trees chopping down in, as you can see right here. In fact, wow, look at all these trees. I sure would like to get rid of them so I have a nice big area to build on, and wow, it turns out I have an axe with me. Why don't we start chopping down those trees? And the reason I'm chopping down these trees, I mean, in part, because wood is nice, right? Might as well get as much as you can. But also it's in part because I want to clear down this area, while also I want to get some charcoal. Yes, that is how this all ties in together. I would like to light up my entire Minecraft world, and to do that, I'm going to need a lot of coal, a lot of charcoal, rather, because coal is gettable by killing wither skeletons. Right now, farming wither skeletons and really killing any number of them is pretty much impossible because of bedrock spawning. So what you do instead is you chop down trees, you turn them into charcoal, and we do that as our alternative. So we're chopping down trees, and we're talking, we're doing one of these cool episodes where, guess what? Yeah, again, there's no hook, there's no anything like this. It literally is just chopping down trees. Can your attention stand it? That is the question. And it's the question of like, yeah, these sorts of videos are very, very polyperforming on YouTube, but they're the sorts that I want to make, so we're doing it today anyway. We're chopping down trees, we're making some good progress, and I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully you are too. So, yeah, how is everyone doing? I'm doing great. This is, honestly, the sort of thing that, like, you kind of see taken over more and more by live streams now, but the reason that I wanted to do it as a Let's Play, the reason I want to have this thing here instead, is because there is a certain beauty of the pre-recorded, like, when something's live, you can get live feedback, and that's better in so many ways, but also, it means that the flow of it is always changing in ways that I think are often for the better, but sometimes maybe for the worse. Whereas this is very much on the track that I want it to go down. Do I want to talk about mushrooms? I can talk about mushrooms. What do I have to say about mushrooms? I mean, they're pretty tasty in real life, and in Minecraft they make for very interesting terrain that will spawn, by the way, in a bunch of different biomes, at least on Bedrock. Wow, Bedrock exclusive, tying it into the Bedrock Update Adventures. And now we've done our mandatory talking about Minecraft. That was great, I enjoyed that a lot. Let's talk about life and the inevitability of everything ending. So I really do think that there's this fun way of analyzing life and putting it down to something as simple as, like, there's like 3 versions of you, right? And the reason I say that is because this past week I've been indoors a lot, and I've also been like trying to live a dream from past me. When there's something you really want to do and you're like, I'm gonna do that at some point in the future. Most of those dreams you give up on, maybe because you can't do them, or maybe because you just don't care about it too much anymore. But for me, one of my dreams was always like, man, I really like takeaway pizza, but like also any form of like takeaway. It's a cool moment when you can afford to splash out and get food delivered as opposed to cooking it yourself. It always tastes better, and the reason is because it's not as good for you. When you cook for yourself, you're less liberal with the the ingredients that are bad for you. Whereas, the takeaway place, they know that you don't know what's in there. You're just eating some food quick and you need it to taste good, and that's what they're really focusing on. But yeah, so basically, I really used to think like, yeah, that'd be a real cool thing. I didn't grow up with a huge amount of money, and the idea of like being able to pay for my own takeaway food, that's like a luxury that, like, even recently, like I try to budget like how much I spend in a week, and like, it's a lot more expensive to do that, so I don't. But one of the things that I did with my very first money earned on the internet, because I've been trying to like make money on the internet, let's say, for like my entire life basically. Like, if it weren't for the internet, I would be in a much worse situation, like having to work through the traditional career ladder just isn't. I wouldn't be very good at it. I'm not good at doing what people tell me to do, as you might know based on this. Like, if you tell me to do something, I'll do the opposite. You say you want more live streams? Guess what? 50 minutes of Toy Cat chopping down trees. What are you going to do about it, friends? And yeah, basically, I'm really grateful for the internet because it allows me basically, like, I've always done some form of freelancing of something, like I used to write, as I said. And the very first money I've got paid that I could transfer into real life, because when I was like 14, I owned a website selling advertisements. It was a whole thing, and a few $1,000s that year that I spent mostly on like American snacks and drinks and stuff. But my first money that I got when I was like, like 16, 17, and actually could withdraw it into real life as opposed to just buying American, candy and stuff. The first thing I decided to do was like, oh yeah, I'll withdraw this money, and you know what? It's gonna be enough for like, I think like I was gonna be like £20, which is enough to like get like 2 free pizzas in. Yeah, I'm gonna just have like a pizza party by myself. It's gonna be great. Maybe that sounds dumb. Maybe that sounds like naive or whatever, but that was my first intention. And yeah, so one of my things after that was like, after, because by the way, in case you're curious, I never got the money. There's a whole thing about betrayal that ties into what actually happened with that money in the end, because I didn't get to spend it. Let's just say it was stolen from me by a close relative, and that's also perhaps the closest family you could have, and that's also why I've been so that's why I always preach the message of like, family can mess up. Family, you don't get to say like, oh, family's always there. It's like, no, if you give family the right to always be there, maybe sometimes they'll steal from you, But whole little tangent here about the fact that I'm just trying to say one of my dreams when I was younger was always the goal of to be able to just like eat out every single day. If I didn't want to cook, I didn't have to. Whereas like when I first moved out, when I was like 18, you can see my videos from back then if you want to see the worst things in the world. But when I first moved out, it was like, yeah, I need to. There were months where I hit zero and I had to be like, okay, we're eating like rice and because rice is the cheapest meal, by the way. It's like 8p a serving or something. I'm just eating rice until I have money again. But so like obviously at that point, I physically couldn't order take away, whatever you want to call it, more than like whenever I was lucky enough to have the thing. But like there was a recent point where it's like, it's not a smart financial move, but I totally could if I wanted to eat takeaway every day. And I've never gone to it. I've always just ordered one and been like, that was good for the week or for the whatever else. But no, this week what I've been up to is I've decided to live past me's goal. It's a dumb goal. It's a dumb dream. I don't even feel good about it. I'm only like a few days in, but I'm just like, man, this is this is a lot of food I'd be eating right now, is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, but I am living like a past me dream by ordering every single day this week some form of takeaway food. It's dessert some days, it's Indian other days, Italian other days, but like all the generic takeaway foods that you can find in the UK, because I sadly don't live close enough to like a Japanese place, which breaks my heart. I used to live right next to a Japanese place and they went out of business. But yeah, so I get like all the generic takeaways you can get in the UK. If you're curious, every like town of any size in the UK has a curry house. Every town of any size has like a an Italian place. Every town of any size has an Indian place. I don't know why those three things are just like everywhere in the UK. I imagine most places in the world. But one of the things we also usually have a lot of is fish and chip places, and they haven't closed given the current situation, which I think is really interesting. Like that McDonald's can't even be takeaway only, but fish and chip place, whatever. It's one of those things of like unequal, enforcement of rules, which is, I guess, one of the things that I would say defines the modern world. But yeah, the other thing that's interesting about it is a fish and chip shop in the UK is where you buy fish and where you buy chips. But in reality, they actually sell other things besides those two items. Did you know most businesses that have a thing as their name actually sell more? But did you know Five Guys burgers and fries? Actually, they mostly do just sell burgers and fries. They've got like a milkshake and a BLT, which is arguably a burger, but like it's mostly those two things. But yeah, fish and chip stores actually usually have like a menu of like 10 to 15 things, I'd say. But recently I looked at the online menu for a takeaway store that oh, hey there, friendly horse. I looked at a takeaway menu for a store that I've been to a couple of times, and I looked at their online menu and I was like, man, this thing is so much longer than I realized. And I'm not saying that just as like, oh yeah, so hey, did you know Toy Cat realizes that fish and chip shop sells more than he figured? But it's also that realization of like, most people when they go into one of these stores, they order the same items 97% of the time, I imagine. Like, I want cod, I want chips. I usually get a sausage and chips because like cod is expensive. It's like one of those like childhood remnants, like, I probably could afford fish in my chips, but I still don't. It's like, I know it's one of those things like some habits die hard. Sounds like a premise for a movie. Old things die hard. But yeah, the truth is that it's not the case. And there's a lot of things on there, and it makes you realize that like off every single place in the world, every single establishment of any form probably has this same rule, you know, unwritten, written, whatever it is. But like the kind of uncodified rather, it's not written down anywhere, but yet it is true. That most of their business comes from the same few things, you know. You know, you like to imagine that like, oh yeah, if a store sells 100 things, they probably sell them all equally. But the truth is usually like, oh yeah, there are some things that are wildly popular. I thought I had a bed around here, but I guess I'm going to be crafting one. So that's fine. I like crafting beds. That's a fine thing for me to do. But yeah, so like I like some of the business comes from a small percentage of the things, and that is going to, if you're curious, actually tie back in to what we're talking about here. So I can make an orange bed. Good thing I brought some orange wool with me. Gonna go to sleep in it because we gotta be asleep before we talk about serious issues. But on YouTube, like this title of this video is perhaps the most dull thing ever, right? Should we address this? Should we mention that like the title of this video, it sounds like the worst thing in the world. Yet some of you, there are a small number of you, but some of you have chosen to click it anyway. I've arguably made a very bad business decision to put it directly, something like that, as opposed to like, you won't believe what I did for 45 minutes, and then like one of those shocked YouTube faces in the thumbnails. So you might be curious, it's like, why would you not do the, why would you not do something like that? Or what, you know, like, why would you basically intentionally make a title that is, oh man, I hate the witches have fire resistance potions. It's a cool thing they have. Again, I've always felt like the witch is one of the coolest mobs in Minecraft, just because it kind of fights back against you. I've considered making a video on that forever, but staying on point for just a little bit. I know that's hard for us to do, but let's try anyway. Like this YouTube video is titled with something that's super boring, and people are always going to question like, so what's the deal with that, Toycat? Is that a ploy? Do you know that you'll trick more people in with that? And the truth is, to some extent, like, kind of yes. The expectations you have for something are defined to some extent by what you expect it's going to be before you consume the thing. That's why, you know, clickbait videos, no matter how good they are, they'll get some number of people to enjoy them, but a lot of people will always dislike them and the person behind it. You know, clickbait's obviously something that doesn't really have a definition anymore, and honestly, it's just like YouTube 2020 rules to some extent. But, you know, like, the title and thumbnail or whatever else, the marketing tools for a video, there is just an expectation of it, and that expectation does affect how you perceive the content itself. And the reason we're using such a bland one with the case of this video is because I feel like it's a great opportunity to talk about the titles of things, to talk about the labeling of stuff. Because I've labeled this video very boringly. I've given it the most bland of titles you could perhaps give something. And I think, you know, it's an interesting experiment, both in how many people are willing to click a video with a bland title just because it's, you know, like, hopefully, you know, like, it's a way of saying how many people actually want to see this. Like, this is going to attract an audience of people who want to be here. You know, no one's here like, oh, I don't care about what this guy's saying. He seems to be rambling for the last 13 minutes. Well, he didn't even finish his point about those takeaways. But, like, you know, like, some people will be, no one's going to be here because they have no clue. They're here just for the gameplay, just for the concept. It's like, oh yeah, it's almost like code for Toycat goes off and talks about the nature of, you know, titles in the universe for X amount of time. And I think that's a beautiful thing, but it's also a beautiful thing that we get to measure using this particular video. So, yeah, this video has a title that is super bland, and that title is accurate, but also is it, right? Like, this is arguably, because, you know, I mentioned in the last week's video how a thing you should have is a principle to guide you through the world, because if you make up your principles as you go along, you'll end up doing bad things. If you are changing your principles on the fly all the time, you're going to do something which is not what past you would have wanted, and not what other people around you might want. And, you know, there's a place for that in the world, for flexible principles and stuff. But also, you know, like, if you want to be a good human, if you want to be a human that has any, you know, like, long-term, you know, objective achieving done, you need to work out, like, so what are you going to stick with and what are you not going to stick with? And that's why, you know, that's why one of the things I've always believed, like, one of the principle I decide to stick with, you know, a lot of people will use that as a particular point, saying, hey, you should do good things all the time. You should promote my beliefs, my ideas, my objectives, etc. But no, I really do think, like, pick a belief, anything you want. Even if your belief is I hate IBX Toy Cat, as long as you stick to it, I guess. Like, as long as you're willing to, I think you should change if it's a bad idea. But as long as you're willing to orient yourself towards some form of goal, it doesn't matter what the goal is, because achieving goals makes people better, it seems, or at least makes us feel better as a whole. And that's why one of the things I've always believed in is honesty, right? I'm always, if there are situations where there's like a grey line in it, I like to be very obvious straight up front, like, here's the deal with that. Even stuff where it's like, it's not really an honesty issue, like, I earn money from this YouTube channel. A lot of YouTubers don't like to admit that. I actually do well enough that I can afford to eat takeaway every day of the week for 1 week. Like, this is a thing I can afford to do. And rather than like doing what lots of YouTubers do, where it's kind of both ends of the spectrum. You either want to pretend you're super, rich, or you pretend you're super poor. Like, oh yeah, I've got this $1 million mansion. It's crazy. It's like a way of flexing on people. Or you do the opposite and you go, oh, I'm so poor, I don't know if I can eat unless you give me some donations and buy my merch. Because whenever people talk about, like, ad rates are down in March. Sorry, they went down in March. They're hugely down in April. Making money from videos is just something that is harder to do, significantly. A lot of YouTubers, when they mention this, there's the implicit thing of, like, please support me via other means because this is my only source of income. And then they might make a little hint in there, like, oh yeah, this is how I pay my food bills, and it's under threat or whatever. And there's always that kind of like implicit, like, yes, I do not have very much, and if you do not do, it's like an almost implicit dishonesty. Whereas I will, even though it's probably worse for business, just be like, yeah, I am lucky enough to be. I'm not rich by any means. That's why I don't. I mean, like, that's not a thing that is true. I'm rich by the me who grew up poor's means, I would say. Like, I do well enough on that level. But rather than lying to people about it, you just throw the truth out there. Even if it's worse for business, more truth in the world makes the world a better place. Even if it makes it a worse place for me, than by not having that next Lambo that I want, by tricking people into giving me all the money. I feel like being honest with the world is a better objective. And honestly, a lot of people do agree with that objective, which is why if you watch a live stream, people, a certain number of them at least, do choose anyway, like, hey, yeah, even though this isn't life or death, some people still choose to support the stuff, give what they want, even though it's not going for charity, because that's not what those things are about. It's, my point here, because we've gone on, like, two unrelated thoughts. Also, what are two pigs doing? Is that three pigs even? No, that's two pigs. What are they doing in that tree? Is this just another weird Bedrock thing? But, yeah, so one of the goals I like to stick with is, like, honesty. And that's why I feel like super anti-clickbait titles are one of my favorite things. Because that attracts people to you. Like, doing the exact opposite of the right idea is sometimes a fun thing that people enjoy on the internet. And this is just my example to prove the thing that I said last week of, like, yeah, guess what? Seeing your principles can seem super dumb on the surface. It can seem like, I turned down a $5,000 Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship, right? That they basically said they would have given me $8,000 for afterwards. Like, to a lot of people that seems objectively dumb. Like, hey, Toycat, why are your principles worth $8,000 to you? Just lie and then change later, Like, I guess I kind of sympathize with that logic on a huge level. Like, but also, there's a lot. By the way, it's not just that one deal. I get so many offers on such a regular basis of, hey, promote our product. We will give you money. Just say these things. And I'm like, if you won't let me be honest, I won't say the things that you want me to say. And if you give me a script, that's a no-go, etc., etc. I have certain things about not compromising honesty where I suffer not only in terms of like potential lost revenue, but also in terms of like, oh yeah, I have to turn down deals related to it. But I think sticking to a principle is important enough to make that worthwhile. And I wanted to mention that as a thing right here. This video will not get 1 million views, but it is something that those who do click it will hopefully enjoy, and that's what matters to me in this case. And yeah, because and if you're curious, I think there is like some long-term gain to having videos like this that are just good for people who are subscribed. I'm not gonna gain a single new subscriber from this video, but what I am gonna gain is people realizing that, like, yeah, I'm gonna gain a certain number of people who like the videos already, who are already subscribed. They can't become a new subscriber, but hopefully they enjoy their next hour. That's all I can really do as a, air quotes, I don't like this title, but like entertainer. during this time, right? It's just to hopefully entertain people, put their mind off something else, give them some things to think about. And one of the things to think about that relates to my takeaway story, I do assure you, which, by the way, I'm getting, like, genuinely sick. Like, I don't want to do it anymore, but I'm just sticking to past me's goals. Past me wanted to do it, and so future me is obliging on his behalf. But yeah, so one of the things that I really, really, really wanted to do... Also, am I stopping this? I am. One of the things that I really quite wanted was to... I wanted to, like, do this, and even though current me doesn't want it, I was like, let's stick to that goal regardless. There's a few times this has happened in my life where it's like, I don't want this hugely now, but like a version of me would have wanted it, so let's do it for that version of me. One of the things I haven't ever done, just to give you an example of this, because like, when I was like 5, or like, I don't know how old you'd be when you're like, you stop wearing nappies or diapers as they're called in America, 3 maybe. I don't know children. I don't know when children happen. You know, I grew up at some point. That's a fact. But like, yeah, whenever I was told I had to like be potty trained or whatever, and I couldn't ever wear diapers, nappies, whatever, ever again, I was like, you know, when I'm the adult and making the decisions, because you know how parents were always like, when it's your roof and your house, you can do whatever this is all about, which I think is the dumbest principle. Like, hey, you know, I give me the opportunity to work. Oh no, you've made a government that makes it illegal for me to work. So fundamentally, I cannot get my own house, my own roof until I'm 18. You are imprisoning me. Oh no, I think too much into those sorts of things, as you might imagine. But like, that chicken is annoying me. But the thing about it is that like, it was one of those things that I had the idea of like, yeah, I'm gonna do it as soon as I move out, and then I realized afterwards, like, actually, it's kind of dumb. Like, it was better in the end that I didn't do that. And that makes you remember that, like, oh yeah, not all dreams are good dreams. Some dreams are good to have as a dream, but don't need to be fulfilled to be wonderful. Like, the vast majority of human wants go unfulfilled. The vast majority of human, I guess, like, desires, like, wants are pretty easily fulfilled. We have an economic system that's great at that. But, like, if you have a long-term desire, you might, if you don't start working towards it immediately, odds are it will never happen, unless by, like, pure chance. Again, I don't know what the statistics on this are, but I'd be willing to bet a pretty darn high percentage of goals and wants that people have just end up like, oh yeah, forgot I wanted to do it, and so stopped aiming towards it, you know? And that's why I like to call my like kind of philosophy on life the relationship between future you, past you, and present you. We kind of discussed how there's no such thing as present you, but for now, let's just pretend that present you, the version of you that is understanding my words right now, this is the version of you that you think about most of the time. The vast majority of humans are 100% focused on the now and the what and the when. You know, they're focused on the things that are happening in front of their eyes at this very moment, you know? That's the thing where your attention is drawn. But even though, and yeah, that's what you're like, when you eat, you're doing it not because, oh yeah, I know that in 3 days I will starve if I don't eat. You're doing it because present you is hungry. When you go to sleep, you're not doing it because, oh yeah, if I don't go to sleep now, then, you know, tomorrow I would be very tired. You're doing it because I am tired. Or actually not. I think a lot of people actually do think that far ahead. But you're not doing it because, oh yeah, if you sleep less over your lifetime, your odds of getting heart disease, cancer, etc. go way up. Like, one of the biggest predictors of long-term health is how much sleep you get. Bad sleep, not much sleep, is a good indicator for bad health overall, because, you know, we just need sleep to... Wait, I still... Scientists don't understand. I don't understand. I can't even, like, properly wrap my head around why, like, resting is essential for the human body, but it is. But yeah, when you go to sleep, you're not thinking about that. You're thinking about how you're tired now, and maybe you're thinking about how you might be tired tomorrow if you don't get some sleep right now, right? Those are the only two thoughts in your head. And yeah, but the truth is like, there are two other versions of you that you should care about. There's like future you and past you, right? The life, in my opinion, like succeeding at life, being bad at life, because you might try and make like objective, you might try and define like objective winning and failing at life. Like, oh yeah, if you, you know, manage to, let's make some dumb goal. Like, if you become a billionaire, you've won at life. If you don't become a billionaire, then you've lost at life. You know, if you have a, you know, attractive wife and or husband, or what I guess it's mostly attractive wife and or successful, whatever. Like, if you have an archetypical good partner, you're doing well at life. If you don't, you're doing bad at life. But the truth is like, because the cool thing about life, the cool thing about the world is you know, like, you don't have to live life by those rules. Like, maybe it's easy for you to do so. Maybe that's what you want to do. And if you do, that's totally okay, right? But if you don't want to live life by those rules, you can define what your own goals and your own wants and etc. are. But the key thing is that you work towards them, that you do towards them. And that's why I'd say, like, achieving goals in life, achieving the things you want to do, is all about this negotiation between the you that exists right now, the you that is listening to this video, maybe playing a game in the background. If you're watching me play Minecraft in the background, sadly you're a minority. I wish you weren't. I mean, I don't know if I wish you weren't. I mean, like, enjoy these videos however you want. Like, listen to them while you're on the toilet if that's what you, if that's the thing that improves your toilet break, sure. But the truth is that, like, if you want to be a successful human being, if you want to feel good about your behavior as a whole, because, you know, so many things will focus on the here and the now, but the truth is you want to improve yourself as a person. If that's one of your goals, if you want to be a more successful individual by whatever standards you want, you need to have a goal. Again, the goal you can define yourself. The reason for that goal you can define yourself too. Again, we are humans. We are autonomous. One of the cool things about us, like, people always get the craziest thing about humans is that we kill ourselves at a rate far higher than most animal species. And the coolest thing about humans is we question what is the meaning of life. It's a tragic question because it has no answer. You'll never just be satisfied and someone will be like 42 and you'll be like, oh, that's the meaning of life. I get it now. You know, it's tragic on some level that we have to question what life is. But the fact that we can question what life is means that we don't have a defined path that defines good and bad life. We don't have a defined path for what is and isn't a good life. You get to make that yourself. You get to create your own meaning in the world, which is like a big challenge. And like, oh man, like, it is totally a big challenge. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't know how to find meaning. Even now, I'm like, I've got like a medium sense idea that maybe will change by the time I'm like 25. Everyone always thinks they have life figured out, and then, you know, they always, when you think back, think that like, oh, I was an idiot for thinking I knew it all. When I was a teenager, I was sure, you know, like maybe 14, I was like, I know it all now. You know, like, what I think right now is what I always think. Like, life is stupid and, you know, whatever else. Like, I was a very suicidal teenager. But, like, the truth is that you're always changing and your objectives always change. But that's why it's important. That's what I'm trying to say here. You've got to have this great relationship between past you, future you, and right now you. You can punish future you as hard as you want. You can, you know, like, basically, if you eat, like, 2 cheesecakes right now, or let's do something worse, you know, let's take some dangerous drugs. You can abuse present you a little bit, but you'll mostly be abusing future you by not going to sleep, not sleeping at all tonight. Just like having endless nights of like half an hour sleep, an hour sleep, 2 hours sleep. You're kind of abusing short-term future you, but you're like, your overall future negatively goes down, and the short-term impact is like, well, you get to browse some more internet, you get to watch another Toy Cat video. Like, right now, if you're, like, procrastinating putting off sleep, I'll do the thing that is horrific for watch time and say, hey, now's the time to go to bed. You can pause this video, come back in the morning if you want to see the rest, but get some sleep in. And I think that'd make you a happier person overall. And that's why I wanted to use this video just to kind of mention my little theory, my little way I live life. Because it came up this week again as, like, the thing I've always thought is that you should care about future you because future you will become current you. Like, like, you know, I'm a maths guy. I care a lot about maths. It's just like, looking at the numbers, it is just correct that, like, oh yeah, if I live the average age that a human will, and, you know, there's no huge reason to think I won't, but if I live the average age a human will, I've got 60 years ahead of me and 24 years behind me. Or more like 59 years ahead of me. But, like, I've got 50-something years ahead of me, and I've got 24 years behind me. About to be 25 in July. Wish me a happy birthday. Thank you very much. But, like, you know, if I've got 2/3 of my life ahead of me, that should be the portion of my life that is more important. There are so many sacrifices you can make. I mean, like, financially speaking. But I mean, like, there are so many miniature things you can do with your life right now to make your future life so much better. And if it was a one-to-one trade, it might still be worth doing because, you know, like, caring about the future is worthwhile. But the reason that I really got interested in it is because, like, it's not just worth doing on, like, oh yeah, care about the future. It's a good thing just on a mathematical level, like, because there is generally the argument, like, if you knew you were going to die in 5 years' time, like, let's say, like, one of the things that always fascinates me is this, like, dumb website. It's called, like, Death Clock or something. It predicts when you're going to die based on, like, a bunch of factors. Obviously, it's not accurate. Obviously, it's just, like, taking averages and stuff. But the idea of, like, if you instead of saying, oh, yeah, you'll live for a certain amount of time, a long time, if you give people precise amounts of time, like, actual numbers to work with, then their behavior changes entirely. Like, once you know you will live for 59 years, or once you know you live for 5 years, your behavior should change. And that's why, for instance, like, if I was going to die in a year, if I knew that for a fact, I am terrified of that one day coming. What I'm not terrified of is, like, not knowing until it's, like, too late for me to do cool things. Like, if I, like, have a long battle with something, and then I know I'm gonna die, but, like, I'm, like, too weak to travel and do everything else. But, because that's my dream, by the way. That's what I spend as much of my time doing when the world isn't on lockdown. But, there's this kind of, let's put it this way. The battle between past you and present you is one that you can do in whichever way you want. Like, if you care more, like, the logic of, like, oh yeah, we'll only be young for so long, let's get it done now and have it in the memories. Like, there is an argument to do things now to burden future you with the things that current you wants to do. There's an argument for it, in theory at least. Like, that's why credit cards exist. Credit cards and other forms of debt, that are at least high interest debt. Like, low interest debt, you can maybe argue for, like, investment reasons. But, like, the way debt works is you take out money right now. You get the thing, the thing that would have cost monetary investment, and most people earn their money by spending time. So you trade off the time, you basically get some time from the future. You work in the future to pay off things right now. Except because, the credit card companies, because any debt company needs to make money, they charge you more money then. So if you want something that's worth £100 today, then you'll pay off £110 next month. I'm very much simplifying the way all of these things work for you. But it's that basic same principle of, like, yeah, you can make sacrifices to future you for present you, but the point I always try to make is that it's much smarter, like, it's much more efficient if you intend to live longer than your lifespan that you've lived right now, to do the exact opposite. Some people get stuck on the whole wrong train the other way around. Like, there are some 80-year-olds who, Warren Buffett lives on, like, I forget the amount a day. He lives on, like, $2 a day or something. Like, he eats steak when the stock market's doing well, but if he's not, then he eats McDonald's, like, as his weekly treat. Which, it's ridiculous, partly because he owns some of McDonald's, but, like, partly because of the fact that, like, obviously he's the second richest man, sometimes third richest man on the planet, but yeah, that's the thing that he does. And I think that is, like, probably an over-priority, like, one, it's cool because he's sticking to his principles, even to the point where, like, he could have, like, seven, I don't know, trophy wives, 7 steaks. He could order a steak and then just throw it at one of his trophy wives. That could be his fun game for the evening. But yeah, he doesn't, right? That's cool, sticking to principles, even when it's past it. But also the thing about that is, I would say it's a bad use of, like, the present you, future you thing. Like, there is more time for you in the future, and you should build towards making that future you have the best life that they can have. Because, like, there's a lot of talk in the world about how you can do how you can do things, like, you can sacrifice a tiny bit for you to make the world better. Like, doing a gap year in Africa to build wells or something. Like, yeah, you would be taking a year of your own life, but making African wells significantly better. That'd be cool, right? There's always, like, things you can do like that. Like, a lot of charities will always try to use this as their thing. Like, hey, feel guilty for all the nice things you have. Give us your money. We'll totally give it to good causes, and we don't have, 20, 30, 40% of it going towards just costs of administration staffs, and also of, hiring, paying salaries, and also the amount of money charities spend on advertising makes me, like, depressed. Like, some of your money from charity spending will go to be spent to pay for other things. If you see an ad on TV and you donate to a charity because of it, then that charity is effectively taking 70-80% of your donation money and using it to fund that ad that you watched. It's the system, one of the worst forms of economics in the world, of charge people, give people guilt and then sell them the cure. Like, imagine someone poisoned you, physically speaking. Like, Just like they took your arm, they injected you with literal poison, and said, "Here is the cure." Right? You would pay a lot of money for that cure, and it would be a worthwhile transaction. But also, we should try our very best to not have people on the street that poison you and sell you the cure. I've actually always considered, like, if someone kidnapped me and said, "Hey, we'll let you go if you can, convince someone to give you like X amount of money, like 100." Let's say they ransomed me. They wouldn't ransom a Minecraft YouTuber. I really hope. But like, let's say that did happen. I've always wondered, like, how much money would they have to ask for before I just said, actually just kill me. At least do it easily, I've always wondered on, because everyone has their price, right? It's that same thing of like, most of the time, our system of money, economics, etc. works on rationality, but you don't make rational decisions when you're like when you're in a state of life and death. Life is eternal. It doesn't have a price, although the FBI rates it about 7.3 million, I believe. But outside of the US government, life doesn't have a price. And as a result of that, there's the real tragic... because of that, there's the real tragic thing that we can make real dumb decisions, which make the world a worse place. Like, this is something that I really believe in, and I think it's... I'm gonna say it, even though some people are gonna be like, "Wow, you're a monster," because I believe it, and I'm gonna share my honest thoughts, even if it's gonna lead to a few people disliking, a few people unsubscribing. But the concept of begging, right? I'm not like, some people confuse begging and homeless people. Homelessness is a crisis we need to fix, is like face and fix and do whatever we want with. But begging is when you see someone beg, you should never like, if everyone did not give those people money, the world would be a significantly more improved place. Like, begging has been a part of society since like hundreds of years ago. It's there actually used to be, this is a fun fact, like certain prisons, if you got imprisoned for debt, because you used to be able to go to prison for not paying your debts. It's crazy that was the case, but fun fact, not a thing now. If you load up that credit card to pay for that thing you want, you don't have to pay the money back. I mean, you really, really should. But legally, they won't send you to prison. They'll just mess up the rest of your life. But yeah, you used to be able to go to prison. You go to a beggar prison, and you just beg people on the street, like, "Hey, I need money to pay for this prison, and also to pay for my, not bail, but like, to get out of this." That was the system in place. So yeah, begging's been around forever, and it's been, I think, this is what I've noticed as someone who travels the world a lot. Worldwide, with very few exceptions, like cold countries are exceptions, because people don't want to stay out on the street as long there. But like, worldwide, there is an increase in begging. It is just a profession that people see, and even like, there's even like beggar gangs now, right? Like, where people human traffic people to get them to like, they steal their passport and say, "Here, you have to beg X amount to make some money." It's like this super gray industry that exists because people don't think about what's happening behind it. They just see someone go, "Hey, need some money, need some change, like 22p, so I can get my bus ticket or something," and they go, "Oh yeah, I can help out your inconvenience." It's a cool thing people are doing for their fellow human beings. I love it a lot. I think anyone who's willing to like financially suffer for someone else is like doing a great thing. But because of the nature of it, when you give money to a beggar, you're doing the thing that I just mentioned. Like, someone is emotionally poisoning you. They're making you feel awful. "Oh yeah, I just got put on the street because I'm an army vet," and blah 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 blah. Some of these stories are true. Most of them are not, but you can't tell the truth from the fake, which is the tragedy of humans. That because honesty is not a trait in everyone. It's a trait that people can choose. You don't know if someone who desperately wants something from you is being honest about it. They're emotionally poisoning you. They're making you feel awful about your day, and then they're saying, "Oh yeah, you give me some money, and that'll all go away." Although in reality, most beggars don't actually do that. Like, you give them money, and they'll give you like an upset look. Is my observation. Maybe it's just me. Like, I don't know. I've in London, obviously, I deal with a lot of this is a thing, and like, it's just a heartbreaking, like, we are all being poisoned on the street. Because if you were a heartless monster, you just wouldn't feel bad. You'd be like, "Haha, those saps. They should do what I do to not be on the street." The truth is, again, it is a serious issue. But the cure to the issue, the fact that we are all being like emotionally poisoned as a result, that is a loud buzz. I got a new phone recently. It's real nice. Should we talk about that sometime? We should talk about that. Let's stay behind emotional poisoning, because I think that's like a terrible thing in the world. And let's talk about a new phone I got, because I used to be really excited about new phones. Like, every upgrade every phone upgrade I got from like, because I used to upgrade a phone every 2 years. Every time like in my entire life since I was like 12 or 13 or 14 or something, and got my first phone, which was just my like mother's phone, but like re-given. It was a Razor, by the way, like the flippy flip phone. Cool stuff. I can't wait for flip phones to come back. But ever since I got my first phone, I've loved the technology increase of seeing like what the new one can do that the old one can't. And every time there has been some genuine improvement, has been my observation. But yeah, this is I got myself a Galaxy S20 Ultra. It's like it's a nice phone. It's like it's got a cool camera, and it's also got like a 120 hertz display, which is, in my opinion, like revolutionary. I care about tech. If you don't know what I just said, then words. I like my phone. But this is the first time in like the tech world I've noticed that like my new phone was like a year and a half old, but it's pretty much the same as this, besides the 120 hertz. But like, how many people notice the difference in their screen like that? And it's like, huh, that's kind of weird. I also got a new monitor recently. If I needed a new monitor for streaming related reasons. I've been investing a lot in the streaming setup using some of the stream money that people tip. But yeah, so I got a new monitor. It's like a higher resolution than before. It's slightly bigger. I basically got like, it's several times more expensive than my last one that I bought like 10 years ago when I first started YouTube. Like my old monitor that I just replaced is like so old, and it's kind of sad to see something like that go, right? Like you get attached to tech almost like it's a person sometimes. But also, it's a reminder that like, oh yeah, so many things in tech just aren't moving as fast as they used to. And it's like I wonder about that. It's like, is it a sad indictment of the way things are going, or is it a good thing? And I can never really decide. But just so you know, I got a new phone. I'm feeling good about it. And it's the small things in life. I think I've discussed happiness before, because happiness is something I think I struggle with. Like to a lot of people, the reason that I talk about this future view past you thing is because most people don't struggle with being a happy person. Like their focus on themselves right now here seems to work for a lot of people all the time. Sometimes it backfires, but most people exist and they don't like seem to. Everyone has sad moments, but most people seem to be pretty content most of the time, which is actually really confusing to me because like I've always been discontent in some way. I'd say the most recent change to that is like for the last year or so, for the last half year, not even year, for the last like 5 months, I've been like more happy than I've been unhappy. I'd say like everything, like the YouTube stuff has gone well enough. We went through a giant dip, but like despite that dip, I can still pay my mortgage and buy takeaway every day of the week. Yeah, I'm flexing on you now. You think this video was to talk about some observation I made from that? Nah, this was just here to flex on all of you about how I can order food from a place that isn't my house and get it delivered here. You hear that, friends? I live in the future. My phone isn't the flex. That's, anyone can have a phone. Like, you can get that based on any form of debt you want. But my real flex here is the fact that, guess what? I actually have myself the ability to get food delivered, and I do it all the time. I love it. But so the food thing is interesting actually, because today I ordered from an Italian place. It's a place I didn't know existed. Like I just found it and I was like, oh, I assumed that was like a knockoff pizza place, but it's like an Italian store that sells pizza and stuff. But on their like order list, they have something that I thought was kind of cute, and that was that they said like they have like pizzas, and it's like these pizzas are for 1 to 2. And then like I look further down and they've got like bigger pizzas, and they're like these big Italian word I don't know, Al Capono pizzas. These Al Capono pizzas are made, they're like big, they've got like thick tool crust. What does a tool crust mean? I don't know. I might have to order one of these pizzas just to find out. But it's got a big tool crust, and it's meant to serve 3 to 4. And then they had like a little asterisk there, and they're like, but we know some customers will enjoy this all by themselves. And I really like that asterisk. I like that because it's a reminder to the world about, like, I guess it's about the honesty thing, right? Like, I really like when people can just cut through the garbage. Like, there are so many pleasantries we have in the world of, like, in the same way, to go back to the homeless thing, like, if you see a beggar, you say, oh, I don't have any money, even when you do. Because it's more polite than saying, I have money, I would not like to give it to you. That is objectively monstrous and impolite. But like, I love like when people just like cut through all of the niceties and the thing in the world and just say like, here's how it is, yo. Because so much understanding all those signals, working it out. Sometimes you're gonna get an error. Sometimes you're not gonna understand. Sometimes like I would even say like when a pizza place just admits like, hey, this is meant for 3 to 4 people, but eat it all by yourself if you like. No one's gonna eat it by themselves because of that. Like, people who are gonna eat it by themselves will do so regardless. They might smile a bit more first. But it means that when you do eat it by yourself, you don't feel like you've tricked the system by eating. Like, when I eat desserts, I buy like cheesecakes that are meant to serve like 6 to 8 people, and then maybe I eat the cheesecake in a day or a carrot cake. I love cake. I don't know if I've ever mentioned, but so like like when I eat cheesecake that's like, oh yeah, it's this many servings, and I'm like, haha, they don't know how much cheesecake I eat. But like that, I think honestly like it works better as a challenge to you. It's like, oh yeah, don't think you can eat this whole cheesecake? It's meant for 6 people, not 1 person, you wimp. I feel like that's almost what it is directly doing when a cheesecake serves this many people. When a pizza says, oh yeah, we serve this many people, it like triggers that part of your brain that's like, what do you mean? Only that many people? And yeah, I actually think being honest about it is not only like, it made me smile because I was like, haha, you can eat it all by yourself. We know they know some people do as well. Like there's probably some legal liability reason why you shouldn't say that for like, serving size stuff. But like, I love it because it's the reminder of like, I think it actually does, it will probably encourage one person to be like, oh, I shouldn't be such a fat monster and eat the free serving pizza by myself. I'm not unique. I'm just another, large, because I could do that and I would feel awful about it. I mentioned before how I used to order 2 pizzas and eat the first pizza and then say I'd eat the second one tomorrow, but then I'd start eating the second pizza and leave like half a pizza or a quarter of a pizza for tomorrow. That was me at one point. I was, I ate too much pizza too. I'm not criticizing them from outside but from the inside. But yeah, I just loved it as and that's another example of like, oh yeah, honesty, it'd be real nice, right? The more opportunities we have to be honest in the world, probably the better. I had a guy, so actually, like, here's an example. I'm about to do a sponsored texture, like, I've been doing a lot of Store Saturday stuff recently. It's one of those series I've always wanted to get off the ground, but like, I don't know, like, I've been having trouble finding the right, like, title, thumbnail, sequence, and, like, basically, been having trouble trying to find the perfect audience for what I think is a cool series of reviewing Minecraft maps. I feel like, given that I don't mind being critical of the marketplace, I probably am in the best position, because if someone just says everything they review is great, then, you can't trust that it is all going to be great. So anyway, the reason I bring this up in the context of honesty and, like, oh yeah, you're not honest to beggars, but your pizza place is honest to you, and that's nice, right? But the thing one of the things that I, like, insisted on, because they were pretty transparent with me, I was like, hey, if you share some numbers, if you share this, that, etc. Like, sorry, if you're willing to give me full reign to say whatever I want, I'll review a texture pack in exchange for money. Like that seems to me like they're paying for the opportunity rather than for my opinion. Like that's what I always want to sell. I've had so many marketplace maps that have basically said, hey, if you can promise us a good review, here is X amount of money to make a thing about it. But I don't take that as a source of revenue. I think that's a bad. I think that's a bad idea, because if I talk about something I dislike as if I like it, I'm being dishonest. Which again, to make some money, maybe you think is fine. But the reason I don't think it's fine is because I think having people know that they can trust me to get my honest opinion, which, it's not going to be the same opinion as everyone else. There are some things I dislike that you might like, because, yeah, my opinion comes from a specific set of places. But if you can trust me to be honest, then you can at least work out what's coming from there. And yeah, that's why I was really pleased that, like, I had a marketplace guy who worked on a pack that he really loved. Like, he'd spent years making it. Who was just like, oh yeah, here, hey, you can totally do that. I'm sure you'll like it. And that's like confidence in the product, right? That is honesty that is showing there you can use honesty to make something better. You can use honesty to show you have a good product. And I'm surprised more places and marketing firms don't just be like, hey, here's the real deal. Like, I really like this Oasis ad in the UK they had a while ago. That's like, hey, we're the marketing department from Oasis. We'd like to spend some time in the sun, but we need you to buy our drinks to do so. Go do that. I think there were some other ones of like, it's a drink, you'll like it. Like, you know, again, like so much of marketing is like trying to associate weird values of products. Like, oh yeah, Oasis is not just a drink; it's a way of life. You know, there are, you know, think about how many car brands will do that. Think about how many brands will be like, oh yeah, it's not just a thing that it is; it's something else. IBX Toycat. I'm not just a YouTube channel. I'm a entire rethink of the philosophical status quo. And it's like, you know, I make YouTube videos. You've always got to, if you get too far away from what something really is, then again, once you lose reality, you lose a lot of other things with it. And although it'd be cool to live in a world where facts didn't matter, where the truth wasn't important, I think it's better to live in a world where the truth is important and people should stick to it. Because truth and lies and stuff, you know, this video is coming to you from quarantine. The reason honesty is so important, the reason truth is so important, I spent 50 minutes talking about it. Although in reality, I was just flexing on you all my pizza prowess. But the reason I spent so long talking about pizza in this video, the reason all of this even came up, I have a lot of apples, that's nice, it's because of the fact that honesty is really important. Not just, you know, again, it's not just my policy for taking ads, etc. on this channel. Which, by the way, I think you should reward honesty. Like, for instance, this texture pack, any thing that will give money for an honest review as opposed to a thing is at least worth your checking out. I'm not saying you should buy anything that I talk about that is honest about its product standpoints. I'm just saying, like, hey, give it a look. You know, give it a try. If they're, you know, the sort of you know, company that isn't willing to do that you see YouTubers talking about in the most dishonest way possible, that's the sort of thing you should not give your attention to. It's a simple enough philosophy I live by. But yeah, if we think about honesty, like, you might think like, well, it's just kind of like, you know, what does it really matter in the end? Like, I think a lot of people like to hear the truth, but like, if the world works so well on lies, then why is that a bad thing? But I think the truth is the world doesn't work so well on lies. Right now, we're all locked indoors. The reason I'm ordering takeaway to my house is not because solely past me wanted to do it, but also because, hey, going and getting food is a harder thing to do now than it was before. I want to support some local takeaway businesses that are obviously being destroyed, or not takeaway, but like support some local non-take, like this. I try to go to places that are like not specifically takeaway. I like to give them the takeaway option to hopefully expand the takeaway market for non-takeaway places, which I think is important, but also to support a lot of businesses that the government has literally just said, hey, if you are a restaurant, you are legally not allowed to operate your business. Your costs will still have to be paid, of course. That's just how that one works. But you can't, you know, like, restaurants are a super low margin business, and they've just been told you can't serve customers. Can you imagine, like, what a weird world we live in, where, like, the government is just like, hey, you cannot serve customers. And it makes sense. I understand the health reasons. Don't worry, I'm not arguing against it. But I'm saying that's wacky. That's insane, right? So, but the reason honesty is so important is not just, you know, like, the reason I've been ordering places is because I've been inside so much. I've been inside so much because there's been a bit of a pandemic going through the world. And the pandemic is something that is really one of the greatest examples that, like, truth doesn't just cost, you know, fear. It's not just like some metaphorical game we're playing. The cost of lies, even though it's not always known, is sometimes huge. If you know, if a company knows their product can poison children, but they put it out there anyway, and they just try to play plausible deniability, that will cost lives. You know, that has happened sometimes before. If a government knows that, like, their actions will kill X number of people, but they're the government, they control the information, they'll just get away with doing it anyway. That is the cost of disinformation. But the biggest examples, probably the whole outbreak, the reason that this particular pandemic reached your country on the scale that it did, you know, we haven't had a thing of this level in a very long time. The reason that it did manage to happen is because in the original country it was in, China, fun fact, but like in China there was a doctor who wanted to do the right thing. Anyone who, like, is racist against people groups, I think is dumb. Like, I think objectively speaking, there is no such thing as good and bad people of any racial group. Like, it's all based on your ideas and your principles, not based on your racial groups. That's my personal opinion. But, like, yeah, there was a doctor in China that wanted to do the right thing, even in a system where the right thing was going to be punished. And yeah, basically that doctor, Mr. Lee, was told, like, oh yeah, sorry, no, you will unreport this. You will retract this statement. This is not a new disease. This is just the flu, or just I actually forget what specifically they told him to say, but they said you cannot pretend this is a new disease. That is bad for the Chinese government to have a new one of those open up. And obviously, eventually, like a month later, it was found out that like, oh yeah, this actually is a new coronavirus. But by that time, it wasn't just one patient. It was, several hundreds. And by the time it was under control, it was 80,000 people there, and they'd started slipping out to the rest of the world. And my point of all of that is like, the cost of one forcible lie, the cost of the Chinese government wanting to lie all that time ago, is the deaths of right now, hundreds of thousands. In the long run, likely, sadly, the deaths of millions are on one lie. A single, and realistically speaking, it was a person trying to be honest and tell the truth to help the medical community that was being stopped by someone. Realistically speaking, he got the order from one person in the Chinese government. That one person now has indirectly led to these lives of all these people. Their commitment to the party line over the truth has cost not only, by the way, the millions of lives is a big deal, right? There's a sad thing that when you say millions of lives, the death of one man is a tragedy, the death of a million men is a statistic. It's true. You don't feel as badly for a million people as you do when you hear like, oh yeah, that one actor, Woody something got it, and like, oh yeah, Boris Johnson has it, and who, Justin. When you hear about like all these like specific people, you're like, whoa, that's crazy. But this is a million of those people with lives, goals, jobs, etc., all being in the exact same situation. And that's what I'm just trying to say here, is that one single lie can cost all of that. Is the lie of, is my cheesecake saying that it will serve 8 people all the time lying? I mean, sort of. Is that lie going to cost all those lives? Probably not. I mean, via obesity, it might actually, in the end, be a significant burden. But the reason I bring all this up, the reason I believe in that so truly, is because if all humans were honest with each other all the time, sure, there would be some social pleasantries lost, but we do know a lot more about each other. You know how, like, everyone always has a situation where, like, oh yeah, let's say you're a girl and you bled into your underwear and no one mentions it until the end of the day, and you're like, oh, that happened all day and no one told me. And it makes you realize, like, if someone had just told me the truth, I could have fixed that. All these people not willing to say the truth about a thing. Like, here's a life pro tip. If there's a fixable thing about someone, like if they're, I don't know, I'm just gonna use girls' example because there's more like appearance-based things. Like if it's like a makeup issue, or it's like, oh yeah, you've got a piece of bird poop or like dog poop on your back, mate. Tell people about that. If it's not fixable, if it's like, oh yeah, your eyes look ugly, don't tell people. So many people get that, like, it's like the simplest rule that can, like, make everyone better. Like, hey, I would say, like, you know what? Someone needs to tell them that, because if they think about it and they don't know, it's better to know, in my opinion, than not to know. But the general social rule is that, like, hey, if you tell people about things can be so much better, both on the local level and also on the world not going through a pandemic level. And that's what today's video is all about. This video is anti-clickbait. I hope you enjoyed it. There's no such thing as 100% truth. Like, even this video, it shouldn't actually be called 58 minutes of, chopping down trees. It should be called 58 minutes of ranting about the truth while I chop down trees. Probably more accurate, right? But at least if you aim towards the truth, then you do a better job than those who are explicitly aiming to lie. You can never be 100% truthful, especially not with so few characters for a title or with so few words you can say to someone. But if you try, the world will be a better place. And that's my opinion. But again, I think you should move towards your own objectives, pick your own goals. If your goal is to lie to people because you think lies make the world a better place, that's entirely cool too. All I know, though, is we've got ourselves a bunch of saplings, which I don't know what we're going to do with those. But more importantly, we've got a bunch of sticks, we've got a bunch of wood, and now we can take these over to the smelter and we can make ourselves some charcoal, because we are lighting up an entire Minecraft world. It's going to be good, and I'll see you all there. Oh, by the way, here you go. You're not chat. You're going to love this one. I finally have done it. I got myself a mending pickaxe. I don't know why people are so insistent about this. Mending is a bad thing for most pickaxes, but I've got a pickaxe I use specifically for mining ore. I put mending on this one. I might put mending on an axe as well. And I gotta put mending on another sword because I used to have a mending sword and then it broke. Or maybe I lost it. Actually, what happened to my sword? Did I lose it in the fire tragedy where I traveled a million blocks or whatever? I wonder actually. I'm gonna have to go source that one. Wait, chat. The honest gentleman and gentlewoman of the internet. Which is it? Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, because I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.